Have you ever looked at an old photograph and felt it looking back at you? Not in the nostalgic way, but in the way that makes your skin crawl, as if something inside the frame is waiting for you to blink. Tonight's story is about a photograph just like that. One that changed every night. One that showed things that should never have existed. And one that, if the witness is telling the truth, still hasn't finished its story. Before you turn off the lights, ask yourself, how much do you trust what you see? Welcome back. Tonight, we're diving into one of the most unsettling mysteries I've ever explored, a case involving a cursed photograph that seemed to rewrite itself, one horrifying detail at a time. This isn't just about a haunted object, it's about the thin line between memory and madness. And as you watch, you'll hear the full story, how the photograph was found, how it began to change, what it revealed, and why its final transformation left a mark that never healed. Settle in. This is not a story you'll forget. It started with a man named Elias Rourke, an antiques dealer from a quiet mountain town. He lived a simple life, dusty shelves, old wood, and the soft creak of forgotten things. But everything changed the day he bought a box of belongings from an abandoned house. Most of it was worthless: cracked ceramics, rusted jewelry, a scarf eaten by moths. But at the bottom of the box, wrapped in brittle newspaper, was a single black and white photograph. A family of 4 stood in front of a farmhouse. A mother, a father, a teenage girl, and a young boy. They weren't smiling, but they weren't unhappy either, just neutral. But when Elias touched the metal frame, a jolt of cold shot through him, sharp enough to make him gasp. He blamed the temperature, yet as he lifted the picture to the light, he could have sworn the little boy's head was turned a fraction, almost as if he were making eye contact. He shook it off. A trick of the light. Fatigue. He set the photograph on a shelf behind his desk and went about his evening. But the longer it sat there, the more he felt like he'd invited something into his home. The strange part came the next morning. Elias opened his shop early, as always, but as he walked past the shelf, he froze. The photograph had changed. The family was still there, the farmhouse still behind them, but now heavy storm clouds gathered above the roof. He remembered every detail of that photo. There were no clouds before. He leaned closer. The little boy's eyes were no longer looking at the camera. They were pointed slightly to the right, watching something outside the frame. That night, Elias brought the photograph home. Maybe curiosity, maybe fear. But before bed, he set it face down on a table. In the morning, it wasn't face down anymore. It was standing upright, facing him. And the sky behind the family was almost completely black. For the next week, the photograph changed every single night. At first, it was subtle. Clouds darkened, shadows lengthened, the farmhouse windows cracked. Then the changes became more disturbing. The father's posture slumped, as though something had drained him. The mother's dress grew torn and frayed. The teenage girl's hair turned wild and matted. And the little boy, each morning, his head had turned a little more. By the 4th night, he was staring directly out of the photograph, his eyes dark, hollow, almost pleading. But nothing could prepare Elias for the 7th morning. The boy was gone. Not dead, not blurred, simply missing. An empty space where he once stood. And behind the farmhouse, a faint, tall silhouette now loomed, human-shaped but impossibly thin. Elias flipped the photo over, hands trembling, and found something carved into the wood on the back. Words that hadn't been there before. He is out. That night was the one Elias never described in full, but his journals reveal fragments. He woke at 3:12 a.m. to a soft tapping, not on the door, not on the window, on the glass of the photograph. He lay in bed, unmoving, listening as the tapping grew louder, sharper. When he finally turned on the lamp, the photograph had changed again. The family was gone. The farmhouse stood alone, but pressed against the inside of the glass was a tiny handprint, a child's. Then another handprint formed, then another, 5 in total, dragging downward as though something were climbing out. Elias never turned around that night. He wrote that he felt breath behind him, warm, close, but he refused to look. When morning came, he was found asleep on the floor, the photograph resting on his chest. Inside the frame, the family had returned, but now they were standing much closer, their faces pale and distorted, eyes hollow, and in the corner of the photograph, barely visible, was Elias himself, standing behind them, blank-eyed, expressionless. Elias. 3 days later, Elias disappeared. Police found the photograph on his living room table. It was placed into evidence storage, where it sat untouched until an officer named Daniel Mercer was assigned to review the case. Daniel didn't believe in curses. He didn't believe in hauntings. He believed in logic, procedure, order. On the first night, he set the photograph on his desk. On the second morning, the family in the photo had turned to face him, bodies shifted, eyes fixed on him, as if acknowledging his presence. He laughed it off. But by night 3, he couldn't sleep. He heard footsteps, small ones, pacing beside his bed. Every time he turned on the light, the room was empty. On the fourth morning, he saw something new in the photograph. A boy standing in the foreground, the same boy who had vanished from the image days earlier, and the boy was staring directly at Daniel. That afternoon, Daniel filed a request to have the photograph destroyed, but before anything could be done, he vanished, just like Elias, and the photograph returned to the evidence shelf on its own, unclaimed, unexplained, changing. Some say the boy still moves closer every night. Some say new faces appear whenever someone nearby is marked, and some officers swear that late at night, when the lights are off, you can hear tapping from inside the evidence locker. Maybe cursed objects don't want to be destroyed. Maybe they want witnesses. And maybe, if you ever come across an old photograph in a dusty box, you should think twice before bringing it home, because once something inside the picture notices you, you might already be part of the story. If you enjoyed tonight's tale and want more stories that keep you up at night, like the video, leave a comment telling me what object you think might be secretly cursed, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss whatever comes next. And if you're feeling brave, check out the next video waiting for you right now. But be careful, some things follow you from one story to the next. Good night, and don't look at any photographs before you sleep.